Hello, everyone. My name is Sean the Chauffeur, and I'm speaking from London. Welcome to Coffee with Foul Play.
Hey everyone, welcome to our latest podcast. Welcome to Coffee with Foul Play, and the title of our presentation today is Bobby's Vehicle Was Gone. And my name is Dr. Silkman, and welcome, beautiful people. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you enjoy our presentation today. Let me tell you before we start the podcast proper, it will definitely be very controversial and very speculative. So get ready for the ride. Okay, guys, joining us today, our regular researchers, we have Bibi, Big Jeff, Jack61, we have Kelly, we have Hanzo, we have Millbilly, and we have Neverly. And monitoring the chat, fielding your questions is Catnit, Sammy, and Zoe. And guys, as per usual, write down your questions and we'll try and answer them during the podcast. If we can't answer your questions during the podcast, come and join us at Discord and we'll try and answer as many questions as possible. And guys, it is my pleasure today to welcome two guest researchers. One you have already met by the name of Justin L. And our second guest researcher is Wizard, whom you've heard in the giving the introduction. And guys, before we start the podcast proper, I'd like to invite Wizard. And Wizard, can you just briefly tell us what got you involved in these cases? Wizard.
Boredom, I guess. I saw the advertisements for Making a Murderer for many months.
Yes.
Hadn't paid any real attention to it. Got around to watching it eventually on Netflix, as you do, and was hooked from, as soon as I started watching it, I was just amazed at
Yes.
the program. And I kind of saw it as being an absolute travesty. So
yes,
having a little
yes,
bit of time spent in prison myself, I could to some extent identify with Stephen Avery and Brendan
yes,
Dassey, and was absolutely just appalled at the fact that they're still in prison.
yes. Wizard, if I could ask you, how has the series Mam 1 and Mam 2 been received in London and England? Are there many people talking about it?
There has been. The furore has died down considerably.
Yes,
I try to mention it wherever I go, and anyone I come into contact with, my friends, my family. I try to get the word out there, but
yes,
we have a good group of supporters here in the UK. Lil
yes.
Misty 84, James Sharp, Eric Banana Man, James Bond, and many, many others.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that keeps my interest up, and
Yes,
I try to maintain my activity levels on social media,
yes,
keeping the awareness alive, and trying to spread the word.
yes. Look, thank you very much, Wizard, and thank you for joining us on our presentation. And before we start the podcast proper, I'd just like to say thank you so much, guys. We have 990 subscribers as of today, and that's awesome, considering we're only about 8 months or so old, young, and I have a fantastic team of very, very passionate people who talk about the case and discuss the cases all the time. And we have some excellent discussions and debates. Some of them get very lively, but it's awesome. I'm very fortunate to have um, an excellent group of supporters, which is fantastic. And our website, our YouTube channel, my apologies, we've had over 293,000 views of our videos, and that's awesome. And if you click in the description, you'll see that we have a fabulous website that contains a lot of information. We have a Facebook presence, we have Twitter, and of course, we have Discord, where you can join us at any time for discussions and other things. And I also like to give a big shout out. Not only is Foul Play obviously working in this particular area and educating people about the two cases, we have other excellent YouTubers. We have Millbilly, Linda Kay, Paul Capaldi, Eric Cozy, who did a superb effort with this year's Mammothon, in which a lot of Foul Play members presented material. We have Andrew, who did an incredible impersonation. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And maybe a less known channel you may not heard about, Mindshock. They're a really good group of guys, hard workers. They're right on the money. They're very, very entertaining. And go check out their channel. All right, guys. Before I start the podcast proper, panel, is there any other information we want to talk about? Have I missed anything?
I just wanted to let you know we also have Linda came as a mod in the chat too. She's been monitoring the chat too.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Sammy. All right, guys. Look, we'll make a start with the podcast proper. Now, keep in mind, the information that I'll be discussing here is quite controversial and speculative. But, guys, let's make a start. So if we have a look at slide number 1, the title of the slide is A Reconstruction of the Events Leading to the Murder of Teresa Halbach. A look at Bobby Dassey, Scott Tadich, Brendan Dassey, and Stephen Avery. Now, you know that Stephen is being represented by Kathleen Zellner. And if you've been following our podcasts in this series, you've noticed that Kathleen Zellner has utilized many, many experts in various fields, ranging from molecular biology to fire experts. And she stated that if you're going to present in front of a judge, in front of a jury, you have to give them your version of how the events transpired. In other words, how the murder of Teresa Halbach actually took place. And so Kathleen Zellner asked a very simple question, but there are a lot of ramifications in what she asked. And I quote, did Bobby Dassey follow Teresa Halbach out of the Avery salvage yard? Now, that's a simple question, but it has a lot of importance attached to it, because we all remember the interrogation session on the 9th of November, where Stephen Avery was interrogated by investigators Wiegert and Fassbender. And I distinctively remember very early on in the piece, Stephen Avery had mentioned that he had seen Bobby's vehicle gone. So let's have a look at slide number 2. What Kathleen Zellner did, she did a time reconstruction of the main events that took place at the Avery salvage yard. She particularly paid attention to the movements of Stephen Avery and also the movements of Bobby Dassey. So she got a series of actors to play Teresa Halbach, Stephen Avery, and Bobby Dassey. And so if we have a look at slide number 2, we know that Teresa Halbach was approaching the Avery salvage yard. She was on Highway 147 and she was approaching Avery Road. We know from her phone records that at 2:27, approximately 2:27 p.m., Teresa was talking with Dawn Pliszka from the Auto Trader magazine. And so she stated in a conversation to Dawn that she was heading towards the Avery salvage yard. And so if we have a look on the right hand side, this would have been Teresa's view of Avery, of the entrance to Avery Road from Highway 147. So let's have a look at slide number 3. So in slide number 3, according to Kathleen Zorner, because remember, she did a timed reconstruction. So therefore, the Teresa model or stand-in had a mobile phone with a timer running. So she knew how much time had transpired from the moment that Teresa entered the salvage yard to the moment that she allegedly left the salvage yard. So here at approximately 2:31, Teresa Horbach enters Avery Road from Highway 147. And she approaches the end of Avery Road, and you can see from the figure down below that red dot, that's approximately where she would have been in that picture up above on the right hand side. Now remember, this region here where the red dot was, this is where and you can actually see it in the picture above, the bus. This was the location that the bus driver had let off the boys, both Brendan and his brother Blaine, after school at approximately 3:45 p.m. Also at this location were the letterboxes. And normally what happened was that Mama Avery used to collect the mail and bring it down to Stephen. So let's have a look at slide number 4. So we see here what Teresa Horbach would have done was she would have done a right-hand turn and driven up the gravel driveway. Now remember, this is the gravel driveway that both Brendan and Blaine would have walked up to go home that day on October the 31st. And if we look at the diagram on the right-hand side, we can see that Teresa Horbach would have approached Barb Yunder's minivan. Now, of course, guys, we know that the reason why she's at the Avery salvage yard is to photograph Barb Yunder's minivan to put it in Auto Trader magazine for sale. And if we have a look at the diagram down below with the red arrow, you can see the direction that she would have been traveling to get to the minivan. All right, guys, let's have a look at slide number 5. Well, approximately 2:35 p.m., Teresa Horbach parks next to Barb Yunder's minivan. And the important thing here, guys, is that from her point of view, you can see Stephen Avery's trailer straight in front. So as you can see on the right-hand side, Stephen was in the process of actually calling Teresa Horbach, but he hung up the phone because he could see her that she has arrived at the salvage yard to take photographs of the Barb's minivan, and we can see that down below. All right, so guys, let's have a look at slide number 6. Well, Teresa would have gotten out of her RAV4 and she would have commenced taking photographs of the minivan. Normally, for a photo shoot, it takes between 5 and 10 minutes to photograph the vehicle. I think she also takes either the VIN number or a serial number of the vehicle, and it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Remember, Teresa Horbach has been to the Avery salvage yard many times to photograph vehicles for the salvage yard, including photographing vehicles for Stephen Avery. So she had been to the premises before. She obviously knew who Stephen Avery was. But there's an important point here, guys. Take note. And that is both Stephen Avery and Bobby Dassey, they mentioned seeing Teresa pull up and start taking photographs. And what I'm going to do is look at the appropriate testimony of Bobby Dassey to the reconstruction events. So in Stephen Avery's trial, Bobby Dassey stated the following, and I quote, "I seen Teresa Horbach get out of the vehicle and started taking pictures. Question, what was she taking pictures of? Answer, a maroon van. So it's pretty obvious that Bobby Dassey saw Teresa drive up and started taking pictures of his mother's minivan. So let's have a look at slide number 7. Well, since Stephen noted that Teresa Hallbach had pulled in and started taking pictures, Stephen gets out of his trailer and commences walking towards Teresa. So it's pretty obvious here that if he walks towards Teresa, he encounters Teresa. But have a look at what Bobby Dassey said. So you can see that Bobby Dassey, in court, he was asked to show which window he saw Teresa Hallbach taking pictures of his mum's minivan. You can see here with the red arrow, he had a prime view of the minivan and Teresa. And he was asked, question, and I quote, do you recall which window you were looking from? Answer, through the front window, in front of the kitchen table. Now, guys, if you've been following this case, those words are eerily similar to someone else's basic testimony. And let's have a look at slide number 8. Well, lo and behold, and I did a presentation on this because Brendan Dassey was actually questioned very early on at Crivets by Detective O'Neill. And I quote what he said, what Brendan actually said to Detective O'Neill. Now remember, he had changed, Brendan had changed his story 3 times. And the last thing he said to Detective O'Neill is the following. And I quote, when asked again as to if he had seen Teresa out of the vehicle by the van, by his and his uncle's home, Brendan now told us that while he was in his home, after walking down the driveway to his home, now note the following, from the kitchen, by the kitchen sink window, Brendan had seen his uncle Stephen Avery and the girl taking pictures of by the van parked in front of his home. So Brendan actually echoed or mirrored the same words that what Bobby Dassey said, which is very, very interesting. Now remember, Brendan, he would have gotten home at around about 4 o'clock because he would have gotten off the bus and he would have had to walk down the gravel road. So he now told Detective Anthony O'Neill that he was inside his house by the kitchen sink window and he observed both his uncle and Teresa Hallbach. Contrast this to what Bobby said. Bobby Dassey does not see his uncle, Stephen, with Teresa at any stage that Teresa was at the Avery salvage yard. And that's a very important and distinguishing point. So Bobby doesn't see his uncle or Teresa together. So let's have a look at slide number 9. Well, what happens, of course, according to Stephen, is that Stephen pays Teresa for the photo shoot. And I believe the photo shoot total was $40. And Teresa gives Stephen a copy of the Auto Trader magazine. Now, have a look at what Bobby Dassey said during the Stephen Avery trial. I quote, answer, she started, before I got in the shower, she actually started walking over to Stephen's trailer. And he continues, question, all right, was there anybody with her at that time? No. Here's the important thing. Here's the important question that Ken Kratz asked him. Question, was there anybody outside or making contact with her outside by the vehicle? Answer, no. So in other words, Bobby Dassey never saw this encounter between Teresa and Stephen. That is significant. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 10. Well, guys, this is where we have a major division, right? This is the first major division in this storyline. If we have a look at the state's case Ken Kratz said during the Stephen Avery trial, and I quote, Miss Horbach is killed on the 31st of October at the Stephen Avery salvage property, sometime, and note the time, after 2:45 p.m. So that's scenario A. In other words, neither Teresa nor her Toyota RAV4 leave the Stephen Avery salvage property, the salvage yard. Both remained at the salvage yard. But if we have a look at scenario B, according to Stephen, Teresa, after the photo shoot, drives away. She's in her Toyota RAV4 and she starts to drive out of the salvage yard. But have a look at what Bobby Dassey said. Question. After seeing this woman walking toward your Uncle Stephen's trailer, did you ever see this woman again? Answer, no. So we've got a major differentiation point here. Stephen is saying that he had seen Teresa leave, but he also said other things regarding his nephew, Dassey. So guys, let's continue with scenario B. And that is Teresa Horbach is in her vehicle and she starts to drive away. In the meantime, according to what Stephen said, he re-enters his trailer and he places the Auto Trader magazine near his computer. Now, quite clearly, guys, an encounter must have occurred, because how did Stephen get the Auto Trader magazine in the first place? Right? He paid Teresa, she gave him a magazine, and he bought it inside. So let's have a look at slide number 11. Well, after he placed his magazine near his computer, he exits his trailer and he wants to go and see Bobby, because he knew that Bobby was home. Bobby normally commences his shift quite late. He does a late shift during the night. So Stephen starts to walk towards his sister's trailer, and you can actually see Barb's trailer in the distance. Let's have a look at slide number 12. Well, if Teresa Horbach is driving out of the salvage yard after encountering Stephen, she would have seen or noted Bobby Dassey's Blazer in front of Barb's house, right? And according to Stephen, he told Mark Wiegert Bobby's vehicle was gone, right? So approximately 1 or 2 minutes had transpired, and when Stephen Avery is walking towards his sister's trailer, he noticed that Bobby's Blazer has now gone. Okay, so let's have a look at slide number 13. Well, if we have a look from Bobby's perspective, right? So Bobby can actually see Teresa Horbach from his mum's kitchen window. And you can see Bobby's Blazer directly in front of him. And he said exactly where the Blazer was parked. Right, so Bobby Dassey would have seen Teresa drive out after the photo shoot, right? Because she would have driven right past his Blazer. And as you can see, he would have clearly seen Teresa would have started to leave from the photo shoot. So let's have a look at slide number 14. Well, there's an immediate problem. And that is his brother Brian, very early on in the piece. In fact, there's a report dated November the 4th. Brian said, and I'll read it out, I distinctively remember Bobby telling me Stephen could not have killed her because I saw her leave the property on October the 31st, 2005. So Kathleen Zellner asked the question, Bobby Dassey was lying. Why would Bobby Dassey lie on the stand? Especially when we look at the fact that Stephen Avery has said multiple times, I saw her leave. So quite clearly the story of what Stephen is saying, what Bobby Dassey is saying, is completely different. It's 180 degrees different. So that's a significant difference in the narrative. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 15. So here we can see Teresa Horbach. She's exiting, she's heading towards the exit of the Avery salvage yard. She's going to go down the gravel road, right? In the meantime, Bobby Dassey gets out of his trailer, his mum's trailer, and he gets into his blazer. And he was asked during Stephen Avery's trial the following question. Okay, what did you do then? Answer, got dressed and left to go hunting. Question, now when you left to go hunting, did you have a vehicle on the premises? Answer, yes. Question, can you tell the jury what kind of vehicle it was? Answer, a black Chevy Blazer. Question, where was that parked? Answer, it was parked right between the house and the garage. So where Kathleen Zellner placed the Blazer was the correct positioning for the Blazer. All right, let's have a look at slide number 16. Well, Stephen actually says, and he states, that he saw Teresa do a left-hand turn on Highway 147. He was actually able to observe Teresa Horbach's vehicle. And as you can see here with the red arrow, because I think the field was plowed or quite low, he could see the Blazer, he could see the Toyota RAV4 do a left-hand turn onto Highway 147. Now, this is very important, and look at the time. According to Kathleen Zellner, at about 2:38, Teresa finally exits the Avery salvage yard. Look what Bobby Dassey said during the Stephen Avery trial. Question, about what time do you think you left to go hunting? Answer, probably 20 to 3, quarter to 3. Look at the time that Kathleen Zellner estimates that Teresa Horbach left the Avery salvage yard, approximately 2:38. Now that puts both Bobby Dassey and Teresa Horbach in approximately the same time frame, same general location, both Teresa and Bobby Dassey, which is very interesting. Let's have a look at slide 17. And like I said to you before, guys, this case is weird, but it's just about to get weirder. And this was the testimony of Scott Tadich. And Scott was questioned about what he observed on October the 31st. And look what he said. Question, this is during the Stephen Avery trial. Could you tell the jury who you saw on the roadway, note the time, before 3 that afternoon? Answer, I saw Bobby Dassey on Highway 147. Question, which way were you going and which way was Bobby going, if you recall? Answer, I was going west and he was going east. Now, this is very, very interesting because, again, we have 2 scenarios. We have scenario A, in which both Teresa and Bobby Dassey are going in the same direction when they exit the salvage yard. We also have scenario B, in which Bobby Dassey is going east on 147, and we have Scott Tadich going west in the same direction that Teresa Horbach is going in. And of course, we know that both Bobby and Scott alibi each other, right? That they'd seen each other on Highway 147. So we can ask the question, which of these scenarios is actually correct? Scenario A or scenario B? But what is interesting here, guys, is that we have 3 people, Teresa, Bobby, Scott. All of them are in the same general location, but most importantly, the same time frame. And if you have a look at that picture on the right-hand side, you can see where Kevin Ramlow had spotted the RAV, right? I think it was on November the 3rd on Highway 147. Very, very interesting. All right, guys, let's have a look at slide number 18. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at scenario A. And that is both Teresa and Bobby Dassey are traveling in the same direction. In other words, they both turn left on Highway 147. So Stephen, he returns into his trailer. In the meantime, Bobby Dassey is following Teresa on 147. Let's have a look at slide number 19. So Teresa does a left turn on cue. Now, according to Kathleen Zellner, again, this is speculative. The reason why she did a left-hand turn on cue was that she was going home. Now, as we know, there are multiple ways that Teresa could have gone home, and this is based on a cell tower ping for the Whitelaw Tower, right? So, Teresa turns left on cue. Bobby Dassey is directly behind her. Now, remember, Teresa, Kathleen Zellner did timing. So if Bobby Dassey actually was going a little bit faster than the speed limit on Highway 147, according to Scott Tadich, the speed limit was 55 miles per hour. Bobby Dassey would have caught up with Teresa Halbach, right? So this is the route taken by both Teresa and Bobby at approximately 2:40. Let's have a look at slide number 20. Well, according to Kathleen Zellner, Bobby signals to Teresa by flashing the lights, by sticking his hand out the window to get Teresa's attention. Teresa acknowledges the signal and she begins to pull over, right? Now, I'm not sure whether Teresa recognized Bobby Dassey's vehicle, because remember, she was there for a photo shoot and she potentially could have driven right past that vehicle. But from Teresa's perspective, someone was flagging her down to stop. So let's have a look at slide number 21. Now, we know that Teresa forwarded a call at 2:41 p.m. And at 2:41 p.m., that was the last time there was any cell activity. That was the last active ping to a cell tower. And according to Kathleen Zellner, at 2:41, that would have put Teresa Halbach very close to Cuss Road. And of course, if Bobby Dassey has just pulled her over, he's there as well. So let's have a look at slide number 22. So we can see that Teresa has pulled over to the side of the road and Bobby Dassey is right behind her. Now, of course, this is speculative. What Bobby's trying to do is to organize a hustle shot for his Blazer, right, with Teresa. Now, he can easily come up with the story to Teresa to say, hey, look, you were just at the salvage yard. I live there, of course, and you were there and you were photographing my mum's minivan. Look, I would like to have you just do a shot of my Blazer. Now, of course, Teresa would not have been suspicious because she had just been at the salvage yard taking a picture of his mum's minivan. So potentially Bobby could have used this as a ruse to gain her trust. Okay, to do a hustle shot. And Teresa Halbach is known to do hustle shots. So this is not something new. I believe in the last 1 or 2 weeks, she had done 12 hustle shots in 15 days. So a hustle shot, she's done it many times before. Let's have a look at slide number 23. Now, this is indeed really bizarre. Remember how Brendan Dassey said that he also apparently or allegedly observed Teresa with his uncle taking photographs of the Toyota, of the minivan. Well, lo and behold, during the March 1st interrogation with Mark Wiggett, and Tom Fassbender, look what Brendan actually said. And I quote, and you can read this in CASO page 555. We already know. Fassbender, he used you for this. So bring us into the garage again. You mentioned earlier that's when he threatened you. Tell us that, Brendan. That he threatened me that if I would say anything, that he would stab me like he did to her, and that he was, note the following, he was pissed off at her because of he wanted to get his blazer in the thing that like that last time she was there and he couldn't. Well, Teresa Halbach did take a photograph of a blazer, as you can see here, a red and black one. But it's very interesting that Bobby Dassey also owned a blazer. So what on earth is Brendan mentioning a blazer? It's very, very interesting. Where did he get that from? Because it's his brother, not Stephen, that has that black blazer. Okay, so let's have a look at slide number 24. Well, somehow Bobby Dassey convinces Teresa to drive towards Cuss Road. Now, Cuss Road is a dead end, so you can park your vehicles there. There's not going to be anyone driving through. You can easily take pictures of a vehicle there. So the ruse, of course, is to bring Teresa Halbach in a secluded place for Lord what known reasons that Bobby Dassey had in mind. And as you can see here on the right-hand side, you can see a time. Now, these images you're not going to see on MAM 2. These images are directly from the reconstruction on YouTube, and there's the link over there. So Kathleen Zellner's team took it much further than what was shown on MAM. So this next section is quite confronting. So Bobby Dassey attacks Teresa at the end of Cuss Road. He grabs Teresa, and if we have a look at slide number 25, this is where Teresa is thrown to the ground and she's struck in the skull, right? She's hit in the head. According to Kathleen Zellner, the two perpetrators are both Bobby Dassey and Scott Tadich, which is very interesting because Scott alibied Bobby and Bobby alibied Scott, and both of them were on Highway 147 at the same time Teresa Halbach was on Highway 147. The question is, did they both follow Teresa Halbach or whatever? But something happened at Cuss Road. Teresa Halbach is attacked, and you can see that Teresa Halbach is placed on a plastic mat, and she's placed into the cargo bay of her own RAV4, and you can see her head. Her head is very close to the panel on the right-hand side. And we know, guys, we've seen pictures of those panels. So again, guys, let's have a look at slide number 26. This type of situation actually matches what we have in the RAV4. That is, Teresa's blood spatter expert showed the drops of blood on the rear cargo door, which you can see on the left-hand side, could have only come from Teresa being struck on the head by some type of metal object, like a tire jack or a hammer, because the droplets of the blood and the angle, they hit at 90 degrees, right? There's no angle to them. It's a straight hit on that door. So the blood was flung back. We can also see on the right-hand side, there is blood on the panel, and that would have come from Teresa Halbach's head wound, right? Clearly, it could not have been from a gunshot. There would have been, or gunshots, there clearly would have been more blood, right? And of course, we have discussed the RAV many, many times. It looks like she was wrapped up in either some type of rug or a mat or something plastic, because there isn't pools of blood in the back of that RAV. So that attack matches with what the forensic evidence shows. So guys, we're nearly finished. Let's have a look at slide number 27. And so what they do, what the perpetrators do, is that they drive Teresa Hallbuck, who's in the back of her own RAV4, they drive her into the wooded area at the end of Cuss Road. And as you know, the forestation in that area is quite dense. No one's going to see you in there. So at 11:13, 34 seconds, Teresa Hallbuck is removed from the RAV4. And if we have a look at slide number 28, she's actually placed on the ground. And as a consequence of being placed on the ground, they bury her in a shallow grave, right? They place dirt on her. Keep in mind, of course, what happened with the investigators later at Cuss Road, including the cadaver and scent dogs. So keep that in mind. So if we have a look at slide number 29, this is where Teresa is killed. She's shot in the head. And the scary thing is this, guys. In under 12 minutes, this horrendous crime took place. That's if you believe that Teresa Hallbuck was shot at Cuss Road. She either could have been shot at Cuss Road, or potentially she could have been kidnapped and driven somewhere else, right? So this is only speculation. But it's scary that in under 12 minutes, Teresa Hallbuck was taking photographs. In under 12 minutes, she was killed. All right, guys, we're nearly done. So let's have a look at slide number 30. And of course, this area of Cuss Road was taped off by police tape. And as you can see on the right-hand side, there were many detectives, law enforcement officer, there was an ambulance, the crime lab, and you can see a blue tarp. There was also lights to illuminate the area at night time. Lots of aerial photography as well. So clearly something had occurred at Cuss Road. And it's interesting that in a report, and I quote, a potential burial site of interest to both a cadaver dog and a bloodhound located in the woods south of the end of Cuss Road, west of the scene, was photographed and examined. Note, nothing was recovered from this site. So nothing occurred here. Move along, people. So guys, let's have a look at the final slide. Now, of course, this is highly speculative, but I just want to put in this. This is from Kathleen Zellner's filing, and it really sums up the case really, really well. And I quote, both Mr. Avery and Miss Hallbuck are victims of a justice system whose success depends upon the integrity, competence, and devotion of judges, law enforcement, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. Both Miss Hallbuck and Mr. Avery have yet to receive justice. Miss Hallbuck has been all but forgotten in the rush to judgment to convict and maintain the conviction of Mr. Avery. Mr. Avery has not been forgotten but buried alive, because those individuals who were supposed to save him from a second wrongful conviction failed. Mr. Kratz's theory of Miss Hallbuck's murder is one of the most preposterous tales ever spun in an American courtroom. If Mr. Kratz's theory was true, Mr. Avery is a true idiot savant. All right, guys. There's, a lot of powerful statements there, but unfortunately, all true. All right, guys. That's the end of the presentation. Let's open it up to the panel. Do we have any questions? Kelly?
Yeah, I was just going to touch base on something. You got to remember, although KZ showed you this scenario, it doesn't mean she actually believes that's what happened with Bobby. It's her job to show it's possible someone else rather than Stephen did it. It's providing merit of these Denny suspects.
Correct. And that's an excellent point. This really, guys, we mustn't forget, this is a speculative scenario, right? It may not have been Bobby, it may not have been Scott. But what is scary, guys, is that all three were in the same general location. So this is a possible scenario, and timing-wise, it actually fits. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to further say what Kelly had said, that, yeah, she's just trying to create reasonable doubt wherever she can. That's her job.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But I suppose, Bibi, the important thing here is, why would Bobby not say that he saw his uncle? Why would Bobby say all the things that he said?
Yeah, I
right?
get why she made the reenactment, but yeah,
Yes.
I'm just, yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Bibi. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
You also got to remember, Bobby Dassey states that Scott would be able to alibi him, and Scott would know what time it was.
Correct. Those two alibi each other, and it's really, really interesting that why would Bobby assume that Scott Tadich would just magically be looking at his watch? Wizard, do you have a comment?
It just strikes me that, being such a close family member to Steve, why would Bobby go to the kind of personal ordeal that is
Yes.
required of anybody to go up and give evidence in court? And not just give evidence in court, but lie under oath. Now, I find it very strange that he'd go up against his uncle in such a way, unless
Correct.
he'd come to a deal with somebody to
Yes.
keep his arse out of the accused seat.
Correct. Well, of course. Thank you, Wizard. Of course, Tom Fassbender had the CD with all the violent porn material on it, which came from his computer, or the computer in his bedroom. And of course, the defense team never got access to that. Sammy, do you have a question?
We have a few from the chat, and I believe you tried to start to address some of it, but Brownie asked, what evidence did KZ use to build the reconstruction, which you kind of answered some of that. Were there eyewitnesses who said Bob's blazer and Q, or did she use masked phone records?
Well, I actually maybe Big Jeff can answer that a little bit better than me in regards to phone tower pings, but a lot of work has been done looking at the cell tower pings of both Teresa, Bobby, and Scott. My recollection is that the pings were all in the same general area. So Bobby Dassey admitted that he drove off with his blazer, right? So he definitely did that to go, in quotation, hunting. The only person that could alibi Bobby where he was Scott Tadich. And if you notice, Bobby was going east, which was away from Teresa Hallbach, not west. I don't think any other person has come forward that has witnessed either Bobby or Scott on Highway 147. I could be wrong. Big Jeff, do you want to make any comments? Do you have? Thank you, Sammy. Do you have any comments?
Lane seen Bobby on 147, but he was not in his blazer.
Right.
He was in a bluish green car.
In a bluish green car, right? Is that correct, Millbilly?
Yeah, that's correct. That's 100% correct.
Right. So, Big Jeff, do you have any comments regarding cell tower pings?
I personally, we have Bobby's phone records, and we know that Bobby used a phone that was linked to the Verizon network, meaning
Okay.
that his which is a different network than Teresa. It's actually a whole different service
Yes.
than Teresa's. It's called CDMA 2000.
Yes.
I personally do not have the cell tower locations. I know there's been some speculation as to that. Kathleen Zellner would have the exact tower locations. They would
Yes.
be proprietary to Verizon.
Right.
And so I wish I had them. I know there's been some speculation. For example, the White Lot Tower, I believe, hosts multiple antennas.
Okay.
Excuse me. But one mistake that you shouldn't make is to assume that a Verizon service behaves the same way as the GSM service that Teresa had.
Yes. Yes. I mean, thank you, Big Jeff. I mean, the weakness here is if Bobby Dassey actually turns right. If he turns right on 147, he clearly can't be following Teresa Horbach, right? If he turns right. And the only person who saw him turning right was Scott Tadich. Well, he saw him going in a easterly direction on 147. The only person who saw that was Scott Tadich. So they had alibied each other, right? So if Bobby Dassey actually turned left on 147, he would have been following Teresa Horbach. So you're correct. It is speculation, but it's scary that time-wise, it seems to fit very, very closely in terms of if Bobby Dassey was actually following Teresa. So it is a speculative scenario. But as Wizard said, Bobby Dassey had to get up on the stand, look at his uncle in the eye, and basically perjure himself. So there had to be something used against Bobby Dassey for him to lie like that. Right? Guys, do we have any other questions?
I have a few more
Sammy.
from the chat. Yeah. Also, Brownie asks, could Bobby's vision of Teresa and Stephen talking be blocked by vehicles and or other objects?
Well,
Did Stephen Avery see the blazer before Teresa left? I think there's more. Go ahead.
Yes. So essentially, when according to Stephen, when he went out to see Teresa, he notices Bobby's blazer. Bobby's blazer is there. When he pays Teresa for the photo shoot and goes inside his trailer and he puts his magazine down on the ground, he leaves his trailer to go talk to Bobby. He goes to his sister's trailer. But what he notices was the blazer was gone. So the order of events is when Teresa Horbach's Toyota RAV4 is there, Bobby's blazer is there. When Teresa Horbach's Toyota RAV4 is gone, he notices Bobby's blazer is gone as well. That puts them both in the same location, same time frame. Neville, thank you, Sammy. Do you have another question?
I don't have a question, just a comment from the chat. Steve,
Yes.
and forgive me for butchering your last name, Dashel, says in regards to who's seen Teresa last, Bobby or Stephen. He said because in Bobby's interview, police tells him that Stephen said that you've seen her last. Bobby gets upset and then he says, no, he saw her last. And we discussed this before, correct? That
Yes,
he was
correct.
he did a
Correct.
preemptive lying. Yeah.
Correct.
And
But
Steve also
yeah.
mentioned, oh, go ahead.
No. Keep going, Neville.
Steve also asked, did Bobby and Scott have cell communications around this time? Now, I know that it was mentioned that Scott did not get along with the children. He did not know the children. He did not know the names of the children. This is all a lie. How do we know that?
Right.
Because Scott said it? You know what I mean? Oh, there were two children by
Yes.
the fire, but I didn't know which
By
one
the fire.
they were.
Correct.
Come on. Yet
Correct.
he's alibying
What
Scott.
disproves that is the jail call in December.
Yes. Millbilly, you want to expand that a little bit?
Yes, they're at Barb's house for Christmas, and Scott's on the phone talking to Steven, and he says, "Hey, do you want to talk to Bobby?"
Right.
They did have a relationship, but Scott lies when he claims that he doesn't even know the boys' names.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the last comment from Steve, he said that Blaine was the only one that describes Teresa's vehicle correctly as bluish green.
Correct. That's correct.
Mhm.
And he was able to, he probably gave a much better description of her clothing than what Stephen did. And when you think that a photo shoot takes about 5 or so minutes, what is Bobby Dassey looking at Teresa Hallbach for 5 minutes? What? And he was asked, "Have you ever seen Teresa Hallbach before?" And he said, "No." Millbilly.
How is he able to describe exactly what she's wearing? Though Steven has
Yes.
actual physical contact interaction with her, but he can't remember.
No. No. And the
And
other, yes. Yes. Sorry, Neverly.
oh no, you go ahead.
The other disturbing thing, of course, is that on the Dassey computer, they found the photograph of Teresa Hallbach and Stephen Avery, which is very interesting indeed. I mean, it just gets weirder and weirder. Kelly, did you have a comment? Thank you, Neverly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard
Oh,
before as well. Didn't Bobby used to stir Stephen up and say, "Oh, your girlfriend's coming over," and it was about Teresa? I'm pretty sure I heard that before. Something to do with he used to stir him up.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that was, yes, I heard that as well. So there's no question that Bobby knew about Teresa because Teresa Hallbach had been there before, and she also was down near the area of Barb's trailer and Stephen's trailer, because you can see that some of the photographs that Teresa took were not from the front, but were at the back. And it's hard to believe that Bobby Dassey would not have noticed her. It's hard to believe that. Sammy, do you have a question?
Yeah, a few more from the conversations that were going on while you were doing your presentation from the chat. So
Thank you.
Sherry asked, how far is all this from the turnaround where the RAV was spotted?
Well, if you have a look at slide 17, it actually shows you the location of Stephen Avery, the auto salvage yard, and where the RAV4 was spotted on the turnaround. Now, Millbilly, who lives in Wisconsin, will probably have a better idea of distance. Millbilly, are we talking about several miles away from the salvage yard, the turnaround at 147?
I recently had somebody that's from Manitowoc send me a video of her driving from the turnaround
Yes.
to Jambo Creek. Then she turned onto Jambo Creek, went all the way to Fisherville Road, made a right, went to Q, took Q up to 147, then made a right,
Yes.
went back to the turnaround. Take a guess how long it took her.
7 minutes.
You're close. You're close.
10.
11.
11 minutes.
11 minutes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
distance from Avery Road to the turnaround, if
Yes.
you're driving in a vehicle,
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Not even?
2
A
minutes.
minute. 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. And what is surprising, thank you, Millbilly, what is amazing here is that you've got the salvage yard, you've got Highway 147, you've got Scott Tattage's property, and also slightly further down from Scott's place, you've got where the Toyota RAV4 was spotted at the turnaround. Everything is all in the same location, so everything is close by. But the question is, if Teresa was attacked at Cuss Road, how did her RAV4 actually end up at the turnaround? Anybody got any idea? Bobby Dassey drove it there?
I don't think she parked it there.
No. No. Anybody got any idea? How did the Toyota RAV4 get at the turnaround?
But it didn't
We
fly
know
there.
people
Somebody had to
saw
drive
it
it there.
there.
Yes.
We know people
yes.
saw it there, so
Correct. Millbilly, do you have an answer?
Somebody parked it there.
Yeah, but who likely would have parked it there? Right close to Scott Tadich's trailer. Scott?
Or Bobby, since
Or
he went
Bobby?
hunting there,
Yes.
Michael.
quote unquote.
Jack 61. Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, well, he's in the mix. That's all I got to say.
Interesting. Wizard, do you have a comment?
Is involved.
Sorry, Mills.
Wizard, do you have a comment?
Yeah. In my view, whoever was the last person who must have been in control of Teresa to have taken control of her vehicle to have parked it there was the person that parked it there.
Yep. Yes, and it is rather bizarre, right? Why would Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, according to the state, bring Teresa Horbach's Toyota RAV4 at the turnaround? Can anyone see a logical reason why they would do that? Jack 61.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't going to answer that question. I was going to make a comment about something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Well, just going back up to early in the slides, talking about the state's case, Kratz saying that Teresa basically met her demise on the afternoon of October 31st. I don't know that I believe that. I don't know that I believe that. We don't know.
No, we don't know.
No. And them not finding anything for basically days. And then all of a sudden, everything starts getting found within, a few days. I don't personally believe that she was killed that afternoon. I think she was taken wherever. Where, I don't know.
Yes. That is a possibility. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
Well, just to go back to your question, it's a good question, and it deserves the answer. Why would they put it there?
Yes.
I mean, it's just let's assume for a second that it wasn't Teresa's vehicle there. People stop there to go fishing. The fact that a car's there means it's a common place for cars to be, and nobody would think twice of it. So if you want to hide a tree, you hide it in the forest. That's a usual place for a car. If I were Scott Tadich, I don't know that I would park it there. And there's kind of conflicting theories as to why would you put that so close to your own trailer? It's the same reason but on the other hand, if you're nervous about being seen, you say nobody's ever on this road. Being seen driving such a vehicle, then you wouldn't want to move it too far. So there's
that's
6
correct.
of one, half a dozen of the other.
Correct.
But if I could make one more comment on Scott,
of course.
I do think it is his behavior after the trial, after the verdict, particularly Brendan's verdict was read. That smile that came across his face, in my mind, was one of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yes.
If that doesn't speak to, why is he so happy about that then? Let's just leave it at that. He's married to the mother of that. It must have killed Barb.
Yes. Completely bizarre behavior. That is for sure. And
if I could ask one more question, maybe somebody knows the answer to. How many times has Bobby gone to see Brendan in prison? Anybody know?
I know of for sure
A couple.
at least 3 times, because I've seen at least 3 different pictures.
He's been a few times, but apparently he had work commitments and wasn't able to take any further, or he wasn't able to get as involved as much because he had a young family and was finding it difficult. So
Well, he's got a young family. That interview was in 2017, and his kids are small. So Brendan went to prison in 2005, 2006.
I think I've seen him wearing 3 different. I think I've seen him wearing 3 different sets of clothes. in pictures at the jail.
Yeah. Bobby Dassey doesn't go and see his brother very often at all.
I
That's
know for
correct.
sure 3. I think
Right,
maybe might be a few more than that, but for sure
right.
3. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it because he can't face them? Because he can't face them because of what he did? Just the way he spitted back Bobby's words, Brendan. You know, it's
yes.
Yeah,
one wonders why. Work commitments is one thing.
Yeah, he works nights. He's a young guy. He could stay up one day, you know, lose sleep one day to go see him here and there, you know, right?
Correct.
You would
Wizard.
think.
Yes, correct. But he hasn't seen his brother very often at all. Wizard, do you have a comment?
I'm fucking growling. Unbelievable he done with his fucking brother.
Can you comment?
Can I comment? Well, I'm kind of speechless really at the very fucking thought of what Bobby done to his brother.
His own brother, correct?
I can't fucking believe it on my own.
Well, not only that, he also did it to his uncle as well. So he basically threw his own uncle under the bus, Wizard, and also his brother. So whatever he did to his uncle also had a direct effect on his own brother. So in that regard, it really is a big tragedy, unfortunately.
A tragedy? God,
I mean, even
Yes,
if he
Phoebe.
even if he didn't do anything, let's say he didn't do anything, but maybe even just the fact that he had that porn on the computer and
Yes.
they used that to help stitch him up might make him feel bad enough to keep him from going to see him.
Right.
They must have had
Yeah.
the goods on him for him to go and do that to his
Yeah.
brother and his uncle.
Even if he
They
didn't
must have,
do
they
anything,
must have had him.
that would be enough, right?
I can't see any reasonable sane man agreeing to lie for no reason like that. They had him over a barrel, and he snitched.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with you, Wizard. I think Bobby Dassey was very easy to compromise. Thank you, Wizard. Big Jeff, do you have any comments?
I do. Millbilly has mentioned this before, but where is Bobby's November 9th interview, and what is it that he said that's so bad that interview can't be released? I mean, the law enforcement continues to hide things. There's no reason in my mind that we shouldn't have access to all the facts. It should be public information.
Correct.
Why can't we have that November 9th interview of Bobby's? We might learn some of the things they were trying to hold over his head. We know from the jail calls that the family thought it was that they really rode him pretty hard.
Yes.
You know, maybe he was, for example, selling drugs or something like that. Something that he could have done some hard time for, and things just kind of slid out of control for him.
Correct.
He never realized, Brendan. So there's a lot of different reasons, but let's have the evidence. Let's have that interview. Damn it.
Yes, correct.
Well,
Bibi,
yeah,
do
and
you have
after all, they scared Barb over pot. They scared her.
Correct.
They threatened her, scared her.
Yeah. She too was a compromised person as well. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Well, I've spoke about this before. On the 27th of February, they talked to Brendan at school. They then take him to Troy Rivers Police Department and videotape his interview. And then they all review that videotaped interview of Brendan Dassey prior to them going to interview Bobby Dassey.
Right.
And then what happens 3 days later?
Yeah.
Brendan confesses.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I know. It's there's something involving Bobby Dassey that made him perjure himself on the stand. But if you unpack his testimony, he's very, very clever. What Bobby Dassey doesn't say is that he never says he saw his uncle attack Teresa Horbach at all. In fact, he never says that he saw Teresa and Stephen together, right? He just says, I saw Teresa walk towards his trailer. So that's rather bizarre because he doesn't mention an encounter between Teresa and Stephen. But Stephen clearly had the Auto Trader magazine. I'm not sure whether he had a slip for the payment or whatever, but he had the Auto Trader magazine, which means that Teresa Horbach had to have given it to him. But Bobby was very cautious not to mention that encounter, right? And so when he went out to go hunting, he says, I didn't see Teresa, but I saw her vehicle. So could that possibly mean that he actually saw Teresa drive off in her vehicle? We don't know. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Since we're talking about Bobby and Scott, I think, and we've reiterated this probably 100 times, but I think it's worth mentioning here again the two different statements that Scott Taddick gave in November of 2005 and why
Yes.
they were accepted on face value and not questioned by the DCI agents that took the statements. Because
Yes.
in one statement, he says he's at work, he runs home, changes clothes, goes out hunting, and the rest.
That's right.
Another statement, he says, oh, I was off that day because mom had surgery and I was
That's right. Bad
up by her.
surgery.
Yep, I was up by her. I came home around 3 or whatever it was. And then the following scenario again. And again, it was ignored. Queso doesn't interview him until the end of March 2006.
Yes.
I find it, well, last thing I'll say, and I'm really be surprised if there's not audio of all three of those interviews that we haven't seen any. I don't know that there is. I'm speculating, but I would be surprised if there's not an audio interview of all three of those.
Well,
right.
You got to look at
yes, Bill Billy.
Earl Avery's November 9th interview. If you read Queso, it never happened. They just talk about taking him to the hospital to get prints and DNA.
That's right.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's right.
Talk about an interview at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we unfortunately have an incomplete picture of what's going on. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
Well, just as long as we're talking about the amazing story that Scott's changes over and over again, how many times does he change his story about the fire?
At least 3 times, I believe.
At least 3, yeah.
Yeah,
and every time.
Every time you talk to him, yeah.
every time he's interviewed, the fire gets higher.
Yeah, and the Christmas phone call, he's like, Stephen asked him, how big was that fire? And, what he says is about the size of a coffee. That's not a very big fire.
Correct. No, it's not.
But yet it was, gigantic fire when.
Correct.
When,
a whopping great fire.
It ended up being the most memorable thing he saw that day at trial. That was his words.
The whopping big fire.
And then Buting asked him, when you said, when you gave your initial statement, it was only 3 feet high. Do you think your recollection is better now or recollection then?
Yes.
And the facial expression that he gives, I guess it was better then. It's not
that's correct.
Justifying anything consequential here. I guess it was better. What?
Correct.
What an asshole.
But guys, if I could just comment, don't you find it rather remarkable that the 2 star witnesses for the prosecuting team, the state, both Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick, are the 2 that alibi each other and also provide damaging testimony against Stephen, which is rather remarkable, isn't it?
Too convenient for my taste.
Correct. But the other, sorry, Billy, the other thing that we got to take into account is that we have Teresa Horbach, we have Scott Taddick, and we've got Bobby Dassey. Undeniably, all around the same location at around the same time, if indeed Stephen's story is correct that Teresa Horbach left the Avery salvage yard. So you've got these three individuals conveniently all together. That's all I'm going to say. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Also on November 9th, while en route to the hospital, Barb Yonda is told by the investigators that Bobby Dassey is a suspect because he's one of the
Correct.
two people to see Teresa Halbach alive.
Correct. That's correct. I mean, let's face it, guys. Either Stephen, if we look at the state's narrative, either it was Stephen and Brendan who saw Teresa last alive, or Bobby Dassey, or the killer. They're the options, because nobody else reported seeing Teresa Halbach alive. It's them, right? It's either got to be Stephen and Brendan, Bobby Dassey, or the killer, the actual killer. That's it. They're the options. Millbilly.
Well, there are a few dispatch calls. If these people are accurately correct on what they're saying, she was spotted leaving Avery's on 147.
Mm-hmm.
Spotted turning on the R.
Yep.
Just so happens that would take her right to 10, which is right the last tower she pings off of.
Right.
So what that lady's saying can be, it seems it's factual. I mean, her tower pings prove that she was in that area.
Correct. The White Lord Tower. Correct me, Big Jeff, but that's her last ping on the White Lord
Correct.
Tower, and that is highly suggestive that she was off the Avery salvage yard, which is consistent with Stephen saying, "Yeah, I saw her turn left on Highway 147." So, put it this way: if Bobby Dassey turns right, then it can't be for. I can't see a nefarious motive. There can't be something nefarious there. If indeed he turned right, and went east, but if he turned left and went west, then he was following Teresa Halbach. I don't know, for whatever reason. That's why Kathleen Zellner was able to come up with this speculative scenario in which both Scott Tadich and Bobby Dassey had attacked Teresa Halbach. Guys, do we have any other questions?
Yes, Julian Dyer in chat asked,
Yes.
did Barb's truck appear in Auto Trader from the pictures Teresa took, or did any
No.
pictures of any vehicles taken that day appear published?
No.
Any of the vehicles?
Well,
that
no.
day?
If her camera was burnt or stolen or whatever, none of those images would have been sent to Auto Trader. So there was a bit of controversy, because what somebody did was someone actually phoned the salvage yard and wanted to buy the van because they saw it on TV.
It was a different van.
It was correct.
It was on the website, and it
Correct.
was a different van. Yeah,
a different one. Correct.
But Bolero or something.
Right.
It turned out to be.
Yes, but someone actually phoned Barb up and said, "Oh, I want to buy that minivan," for like notoriety purposes, because it was shown on the news. But no, those pictures did not appear in Auto Trader, because if they did, it meant that her images were transmitted to Auto Trader by Teresa Halbach. They never made it. Neverly, do you have another question?
I don't have a question. I would like to go back to Bobby's interview, not the one that they're hiding that we cannot get hold of course, but the one that we did hear, with the kids in the background and whatnot.
Correct.
When he said, deep down inside, I know I didn't do it and whatnot. At one point, the investigator says, well, no, it's okay. We want to believe you. 99% of the law enforcement believes you that you're
Correct.
innocent. and we
Yes.
want to we just want to make sure that we have the right
The right person.
responsible. So I'm like,
The right
what the hell are you talking about? You have two people locked
Correct.
up, and now you want to make sure.
Yes.
How many years later? What's
Yes.
that all about?
Yes, but and I say to my panel and also to the listening audience, surely Deidring cannot be that stupid. Surely he can see all the holes. Surely he can see all the holes in Bobby Dassey's story, right?
Why do you think? Why do you think I call him Deadhead?
Yeah, correct. Because you now can't turn around and say, "Oh well, Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey were actually innocent. You have some role in this." The case will fall apart. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Don't forget, Dieterich was brought out of retirement to redo this interview.
Yes, correct. Deidring interviewed quite a few people, but it's rather bizarre that they had to wait to 2017 before interviewing Bobby Dassey. It just seems rather ridiculous to wait for that long. But again, guys, this was just one possible scenario, right? So if
So
Teresa Hall, yes,
sorry,
go for it.
sorry.
Sorry,
So
BB, go.
basically, they called him out of retirement. He came there and said, the boss wants to make sure we get the right version of it, and that's it. Then he's gone again.
Yeah, finished.
Yeah.
Correct. It's just like when the investigators went to Cuss Road and basically said, nothing to see here, guys. End the story. And that's it. They would not have pursued Bobby Dassey any further. Justin L., do you have a comment?
I was just going to comment that there's also another Bushman.
Oh, Bushman, yes. Bushman. Okay. He also came out of retirement as well. Correct. Jack 61.
Just adding a little bit to the conversation that never really started. BB kept on. How do we know how do we know that 2017 queso reinvestigation is finished? How do we know that? Just because we've only gotten 60 whatever pages it was of that report, queso 2. Who says there's not more?
Correct.
Well,
correct.
he kept writing. The case continues. Does he ever write? That's the end of the case.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Sammy, do you have a comment? Thank you, Jack 61. Sammy.
Well, way back earlier in the comments, I was trying to take down questions and whatnot, but Millbilly had mentioned that Bobby crushed his blazer after getting the Ranger.
Right.
Can you expand on that just a hair, please?
Well, maybe Millbilly can expand that. Yeah, but that wasn't the only thing that disappeared, right, Millbilly?
Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly the date he crushed it. That's what I'm trying to find out. But it was after he got the Ranger, and I believe it was before Brendan gets arrested.
Right. Just seems so questionable to me. So I really wanted to just bring that back up.
Yes. But correct me if I'm wrong, Millbilly, but didn't he go to another car salvage yard to get his blazer crushed?
Yes.
Despite having a functional crusher on his on his dad's,
I have a cynical mind. I had
property.
to ask. Yeah.
Technically, no. That company took back their crusher that they had loaned to them.
Okay.
Somewhere kind of early on in the investigation, because I think they got in trouble that the Averys were crushing cars without them. I'm not positive, but
right.
You can hear that in Earl's interview. BB.
Yes.
They started to put pressure on him on November 9th.
About who's been crushing cars and that they're not supposed to crush them without somebody from that company that lent it. Yeah.
Yes, correct. That was rented.
But and there's something about that they took back the crusher too that I read somewhere that came and got it.
Right. But also, isn't it true that Scott Taddish's trailer was either vandalized or burnt or taken away? Is that true as well, Millbilly?
It was condemned.
Condemned. Right. That's very interesting. Now,
What
do you
does
know
that
whether
mean?
The people that owned the crusher is Norbs.
Norbs? Yeah.
It
It
means
means
if it's condemned, it's taken away and dismantled.
I'm obsessed
dismantled.
over that.
And you're
The
either
convenience
charged
of
for
it.
it being done or you have to pay for it yourself or whatever when they're condemned.
Yes. And there also was that rumor that Scott Tadich was trying to sell one of the, I think it was a .22 that belonged to either Bobby Dassey, so which he denied. So you've got all these weird events taking place. You've got Bobby Dassey crushing his Blazer. You've got Scott Tadich's trailer being condemned, and rumors of him trying to sell a rifle soon
Well,
after the murder. So that's very, very interesting. All right, Big Jeff.
I did see a question come by in the comments that I thought I could answer.
Yes.
It was the one about the ISP, Sammy. Can you reread that?
I will. It says, is there absolutely no way to fake a computer history to an ISP address? Has anyone here seen the ISP address of the Dassey computer and matched it to the searches?
The answer is yes, that can be faked. But it would be a very difficult thing to do, and this would probably not have escaped. If anybody faked it, it would have to have been Veely himself, because he's the one that did the
Correct.
forensics. He would have been able to tell the date. I haven't heard anybody throw Veely under the bus yet.
No.
So yeah.
No.
So the answer is yes, but it's doubtful.
Yeah, if I could just add, if you're going to fake it, it means that you have to have the cooperation of the actual ISP, because what happens is all internet traffic goes through servers, and your ISP keeps a log and a record of all the sites that you visit and stuff that you download. And that's why back then a lot of people got into trouble for, I think they had Napster back then, where they were downloading a lot of music and films, and they can actually trace the individual who's doing it, because there's a record kept of all your computer activity. So you've got a record on your PC, but the ISP has a record of what you download. So you have to fake what's on the computer, and you have to fake with what the ISP has got as well. Very, very hard to do. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Yeah.
No problems.
Mainly for Jeff. So if Veely faked this, and then later Zellner's expert looks at it, Zellner's expert would probably be able to see where Veely had faked it, though.
Well, perhaps, but what Silkman said, the way that you would do that is you obtain the records from the ISP. It's not clear
ISP.
that Veely actually corroborated the records on the computer with the ISP. I don't know that he did that. I don't know if the ISP would still have them at the time. What you would have done is make sure you have corroboration.
Correct. And remember, I think it was Barb Yunder who attempted to get her computer cleaned. But the problem is, if you don't properly overwrite your hard drive, there's still a record there. You actually have to properly reformat your hard drive, literally. And if not, it's still, the records are still there. You just overwrite them. So the important thing is here, guys, is that the ISP would have had a complete record of everything that was downloaded and when. And so what was damning was that the time that a lot of the material was downloaded was when Brendan Dassey and Blaine were at school and Bobby was home, right? So that's why they're very, very damning. Sammy, do you have a question?
Yep, we have Sherry here is asking, how far is the Xander Road smell incident from Scott's trailer and the turnaround area?
I got this.
Billy.
4.7.
Oh, he's a local. He's a local.
4.7 miles. It'd take you 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
That's excellent. Thank you for that. And Steve asked, did Bobby and Scott have cell communications around this time? We know that?
I don't know that we have. Well, I guess we do have
Yeah.
Bobby's records. I don't think. I think Scott is smart enough to use a burner, but that's another thing. I haven't examined Bobby's records deeply because I don't have the time to pay.
We don't have Scott's.
No. It'd also be very handy to get Scott Tattage's DNA as well, but I don't think that's likely to happen. Neverly,
more.
do you have one more? Sorry, Sammy.
One more. Julian is asking, do you think the RAV4 was moved a second time after the site was searched and it wasn't found, moved to a different location to be found the second time by Pam? I found a needle in a haystack. You know, like her saying, "Oh, I found a needle in the haystack."
It had to have been moved at least twice.
Think so.
At least twice. Well, we know that it was spotted around the turnaround, but then it was also found later on the 5th at that Avery salvage yard. So wherever Teresa got attacked, that would have been one location. Then you have the spotting of the RAV on the turnaround. Then you've got the report, the MTSO report that talks about the RAV4 being seized on November the 3rd, and that Teresa is regarded as being kidnapped. So that RAV4 had to have moved at least twice, at least maybe even more. And we're not going to talk about multiple RAVs, whatever we do.
Thank you so much for all the answers and all the
no problems at all.
questions. They have really good questions. It's hard to pick, what to ask them when. But thank you guys. Keep the questions and answers coming.
Oh, no
There was
question.
one more question.
Sorry, guys, I had to say it. 1 RAV plus 1 RAV equals 2 RAV.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Dr. Silkman, if I could have one follow-on answer to that comment, if the supposition, not the 1 RAV plus 1 RAV, but if the supposition is that the RAV was moved on the Avery salvage yard again, then it would have had to have been in a place the first time to sort of escape the flyover video on the 4th.
Correct.
So,
and it could well have been in the possession of law enforcement in a garage. Because when they did the flyover, they looked all around the salvage yard, but also surrounding areas. They were up there for hours and took a lot of footage. They couldn't see anything on the salvage yard or surrounding areas. So it would have been secreted in a place where you couldn't observe it from the air. So that RAV would have to have moved probably maybe at least 3 locations. At least 3. Yes. Neverly, do you have a comment?
There was a question like from an hour ago, and forgive me if we have already discussed this. Jaznaz asked, what if the third party was waiting at the turnaround? Did we discuss this?
No, we haven't. We don't know. I mean, Kevin Ramlow saw it. There's no doubt that, in my opinion, Colburn went down there on the 3rd to call in the plates. He was standing in front of behind the RAV, in my opinion. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Yeah. Well, we know from the pre-trial that search parties were forming, the family and friends, and they were going to different areas, which brings me to my other comment, and that's about Pam Magad, because I find it, again, I've said this a million times, I find it really suspicious that they knew that one of Teresa's last stops was at Avery salvage yard, but Ryan had not assigned anyone to search there. Why not? And she comes in and says, "Oh, have you went here? I'll go."
Yeah, correct.
I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. I just don't.
Jack, that's all prearranged.
Yes.
Ryan Hilligus likely could have been the person who put the RAV4 at the pit. It could have been him, because if you have a look at those phone calls, 22 calls, all short, dropped, likely to be from law enforcement, all in a row. Then they stop at the time that Chucky calls his brother and says, "Hey, I've seen headlights near my property, near his trailer." Yeah, that's a lot of coincidences now. That's a lot of coincidences now that he sees headlights on November the 4th, right? And on the 5th, that's where the Toyota RAV4 is found. And as we all know, Pam of God was very shocked to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I see a blue RAV4, not a dark green one," right? Bluish
Yep.
green, correct.
Which is why, the question came up recently in one of the earlier coffees about, who do we think one way or the other? And as a Denny suspect, I mean, there's suspicion for several, but I lean more heavily towards Ryan than I do probably anyone. And it's just for those reasons, and a number of them you just named.
Correct.
But
BB,
there was somebody searching out there by it, because we have an account that after they found the RAV and the police are there, they look down into the corner of the quarry and see a party of her friends searching. There's like 4 of them, I think, or 5.
There's 5 of them.
5 little kittens.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were on the man. Yep. They were there and they were escorted off the property.
Yeah. So maybe if Pam wasn't able to find it, maybe they could have worked their way up there. Maybe they were like the second wave in case Pam couldn't get access or couldn't find it. I don't know.
I suspect they were already there and came in the back way.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I'm speculation.
That's
purely,
how
but
I read it in the report that was written. That's how I understood it. There's Carla Black in the chat. She is, I think she's as addicted as we are to the case. This is her first time that she said.
another addict? Impossible.
Yeah, she's a mamaholic.
Right.
Carla Black, welcome to Mamaholics Anonymous. Have a seat. And she said that she's shy and that she overcame that shyness and said hello, and then she unleashed and she asked all these questions. She had great points and whatnot. But I want to stir somebody up, which is our guest researcher, Mr. Wizard. Look what Carla Black said. Her top 3 suspects are Peterson, Kuchurik, and Wendy Baldwin. She says, joking, kind of. So what do you think about that, Wizard?
Oh no! Oh no! Thank you,
Zero. Oh, I've known some wrong uns in my time, but that Tom Kusurik boy, he takes the biscuit. He does. He's a nasty piece of work for law enforcement. What do I think of him? God dear. Oh, there are so many nice people listening.
Well, tell us what you really think. That's the best way to do it.
Oh, I think they're a bunch of bastards. There are a lot of them. Absolute fucking worst scum criminals I've ever seen in my days. Fucking horrible bastards. A lot of them.
I don't think you're going to get anyone disagreeing with you here, Wizard.
I believe Tom Kusurik is the ringleader. I think Peterson was next to inherit the crown, and then when he jumped ship and Herman took over, he was left to feast on the carcass of the family and the land. That's my take on the story, anyway.
Yeah, correct. Thank you, Wizard. And Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Well, I was wondering why Sklarinsky on November 6th is referring to Kuchurik as a deputy.
In
his questioning.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. Correct. I mean, it's all we've been through this many times, guys. It's all part of the old guard. The same people that wanted to put Stephen away the first time for the rape case in '85. It's the same old guard that's come back to fix him up really good and proper the second time round. But this time they're pinning a murder on Stephen to lock him up for good. It's the same old guard. The corruption unfortunately goes all the way up to the top. But I want to ask a question to my esteemed panel here. I want to know, yes or no, and your reasons. Do you think Bobby Dassey and Scott Tadich had anything to do with the disappearance of Teresa Halbach? Bibi, yes or no?
Oh, if you believe she's dead, yeah, they very well could have.
Okay, that's a possibility. Thank you, Bibi. Big Jeff.
I've withdrawn myself from the prediction business, and the most I'll answer is are they viable Denny suspects that Kathleen Zellner ought to be able to bring in and name them by name in trial? And the answer to that is yes.
Okay, thank you, Big Jeff. Jack 61.
I think that I'm pretty much where Big Jeff is. I hesitate to say yes. I think that for whatever reason they were used, as we've all agreed, to convict Stephen and in fact Brendan from that fallout. As to why, I don't know, but I think that in order to do so, they've perjured themselves and given so many false statements that they have to be Denny suspects.
Yep.
As far as her demise, again, I lean more towards Ryan than I do them.
Okay. Thank you, Jack 61. Justin, what do you think? Justin now.
I would have to say no, but I do believe there's enough.
Oh, you broke up there. Can you repeat that, Justin?
Said I would have to say no. There is enough suspicion there for them to be any suspect.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Justin. Kelly, what do you think?
I think that I go between them all the time and Ryan. So, of course, it's plausible that there's a chance it's them. But the only one thing I can say for sure is it wasn't Ryan, it wasn't Stephen, and it wasn't Brendan. Who it really was, no one really knows right now. That's the only thing I can be sure of.
Yep, I agree with you. We may never know. Hanzo, do you have an opinion?
I think they did have an involvement, but the lack of evidence that they're innocent is like just confusing me a little bit. Like,
yes,
they were innocent, they would like really portray that they're innocent, but all the evidence says otherwise,
Yes. Okay. So you feel that they may have had an involvement?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Hanzo. Millbilly. What do you think?
Who is they? Bobby?
Bobby and Scott Tadich.
My honest, from everything that I've come across, yeah, the fact that they're withholding crucial interviews and statements always change.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Could they have been, do you think possibly that they're protecting others?
No, they're protecting their own asses.
Okay. A CYA. Okay. Thank you, Millbilly. Neverly, what do you think?
I think Bobby Dassey and Scott Tadich make beautiful Danny suspects. My personal opinion is that Scott is fishier than Bobby.
Yes.
I think Bobby was cornered, to turn against Stephen, so Stephen wouldn't turn against him, with the fact who saw her last. But Scott Tadich got a really good incentive. Remember, he got a house on 5.1 acres. He got his record cleaned up. He got some debt forgiven. He got married to Barb so he could control her and so she couldn't testify again. And so he could control the whole situation. And then his temper is vile. He was telling that 22, there was a screaming lunatic teenager or whoever was calling him at work. The sticky note, I don't know about that, about the bloody clothes in the laundry. The fires, then he went to see his mother, he didn't, he was on the property, he wasn't, he was watching Prison Break, he wasn't, I don't know. So those are
and also thank you, Neville, and also Kevin Ramlow sending him the text messages about seeing the RAV4.
Thank you for reminding. Yes, absolutely.
That would someone in the audience mentioned that as well. Yes, that wouldn't have gone down too well with him either. Thank you, Neville. Wizard, what do you feel? What's your gut feeling?
Very good Danny suspects at the very least. For me, it's all on the timing. I had Ryan at first, but they make good suspects. They come a very, very close second. I see Scott has been very capable of a lot of badness, and that's like a lot of very dark. I see a very dark character to me, and I see Bobby as a very willing participant, considering his interests, and he's kind of pairing that with his love of hunting. That would suit his predatory. Yeah, they're both predators.
Correct.
Both predators. Yeah,
yep,
definitely.
and they've also had a lot of experience with deer dressing kits. So they know how to dismember. There's a real scary image. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it was in the outro video, in which there's a dressed deer hanging in Bobby Dassey's garage, and it sent a shiver up my spine.
They're not just hunters; they're hunters and butchers of meat. They know how to dress an animal, like you say.
Correct.
And all they've got to do is carve it up into four, and it's into four much smaller, manageable pieces, and it's an easy way to transport a body in 4 large bags.
Correct. In bags, correct. Agree.
Thank you, Wizard. I forgot to say something.
Yes, Neville.
Sorry. And Scott's connection to Jerome, they're buddies. He was his personal lawyer, and then he was invited to bring Scott, or actually Scott bring Fox to the deer club, hunting club, to teach him how to hunt deers.
Okay.
And remember, Scott was the one who received the message to tell Barb to tell her son to take the plea. Why wasn't Barb directly contacted? Why did it have to go through the stepdad?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No. And the other amazing thing was that I think it was either Barb or Scott, and BB could back me up on this, who provided information to Fassbender about the bleach on the jeans of
it was
Brendan.
Barb, remember that day? Ultimately, when we kept searching and searching, and it was Barb who first brought it up.
It was Barb herself, unreal, who brought up about the jeans. And that allowed Fassbender and Uyghur to actually go on the property and go and collect it. So that was very interesting. Thank you, Bibi. Zoe, do you have an opinion?
Well, I do have an opinion. I don't think Scott and Bobby had anything to do with the disappearance and murder. It just doesn't. It's hard to explain. You should have told me before we started the podcast, so I write things down for me, not just ask me.
Zoe, So we're spontaneous on this podcast. We don't have any notes.
Okay, then I'm gonna start talking in Slovenian language if I have to be spontaneous.
So Zoe, you're saying no?
No, well, yes, no. I say they have. I think they have nothing to do with the murder. I'm still convinced it was Ryan, just because I believe in statistics.
Yes.
With the how many murders, like women who got killed, are more likely to get killed by someone. The what?
Yes. Family, by family or an
Yes,
ex-boyfriend.
someone
Yep,
they know.
correct.
Yeah, someone they know.
Correct.
Because I
Correct.
can't see what motive Scott and Bobby would have.
Yes.
Just to go after her and kill her just like that. It just doesn't make any sense for me. That's why I'm going with no. They didn't do it.
Okay. Interesting. Sammy, do you have an opinion?
Yeah. Putting all statistics aside and crimes of passion aside, because so far as I can tell, they don't have a direct connection to her this way. But there are several things in this that really bothered me that make me think that they are viable Danny suspects beyond a reasonable doubt. And as an investigator, you would think it would be included as Denny, but we know why they weren't.
Yep.
In researching, it seems that there's too many indications of favors done, alibis overlooked.
Yes.
It's obvious here they were overlooked intentionally, and it
Correct.
really is troublesome for me. So I can't abandon them as being Denny suspects, although I can't. There's reasons why I still lean towards either one of them, and the
Yes.
computer has an awful lot to do with that for me.
Correct. Correct. Well, not awesome. I'll give you my opinion, right? Now, here's my opinion. I don't think Scott and Bobby had anything to do with Teresa's disappearance. However, there's no question that Bobby Dassey followed Teresa Horbach out. So therefore, he actually was linked to being very, very close and in the same vicinity as where Teresa Horbach was. There were two options. One, he definitely saw the encounter with Stephen and Teresa. Two, he saw Teresa leave. And the reason why he saw Teresa leave is because he followed her out. Now, there's two options. He either turned left, and if he turned left, he was trying to flag her down, maybe to chat her up or whatever. And it didn't work out. She went one way, he went another way. But there's one problem. If he admitted in a court of law that, oh, yes, I left and I followed her out, no one's going to believe that he wasn't involved, right? No one would have believed it. Or, secondly, he actually turned right and went up east 147. If he did that, he clearly couldn't have been the murderer. And I highly doubt Scott, being definitely potentially very violent type of man, I highly doubt that he was involved as well. But the reason why Scott had to alibi Bobby was that Bobby indeed followed Teresa Horbach out. So therefore, he had to get like a favor. I alibi you, you alibi me. I'll keep my mouth shut regarding what I saw or didn't see. Therefore, he threw his own uncle under the bus. Do I think he was the killer with Scott? No, I don't. That's just my opinion. Jack 61.
It's interesting in hearing you talk about them, and I'm thinking about back to these statements in the slides that were made by Brendan that were eerily similar. It's just another one of those conundrum things that happened in this case. You know what I'm talking about. I didn't pull a slide up, but
yeah, but Brendan
and about the Blazer too. Go ahead.
oh, you turn into a piano. But Brendan could have overheard his brother, right? He could have overheard his brother, and as in his brother would have said, "Yeah, I saw her from this window here, and I went hunting." Now it's too much of a coincidence, right? You have Teresa Horbach leaving the salvage yard. You've got Bobby Dassey saying he left at the same time frame, and lo and behold, who sees him on 147? Scott Tadich, right? So potentially Bobby Dassey looks really bad if he says, "Oh yeah, Judge, I did follow her out, but I promise I went right and Scott Tadich saw me." No. He did not want to be associated with Teresa Horbach at all. Just an opinion. Neverly.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this, and I agree with you because that doesn't that just sound like a mastercraft of Ken Kratz, how he spins a story just to
Yeah.
enter it in the court system, so it's in the records. So he spins this story that really doesn't make any sense to anybody, right? But he
Yes.
covers the basis. He protects
Correct.
Bobby, he protects Scott, he provides an alibi. You know how he provided an alibi for Ryan years later. You know,
Correct.
he's a master at this.
Correct.
And
Correct.
just let me know when we can do more questions from the chat. I have one.
Mm.
Oh, comments. Yeah.
Yes.
Later on. Yeah.
Go for it, guys.
Okay. Sherilyn Pontillo said someone should look into Scott. If Scott has any connections to that husband who has killed his wife, dismembered her, and burned her up the same week. Drug connection? Did they know each other? She's talking about the Christine Rudy
Christine
case.
Rudy. Yes.
Yeah. So here we go.
Yeah.
Drugs. We had plenty of discussions on Discord
Correct.
about drugs.
Correct. And most of the early investigators who were at the Avery salvage yard were all narcotics, all narcotic agents. And one of the biggest one was Skorlinski, and there was another one. I think it was Steyer. I have to double check it. They couldn't even videotape him in court. Ken Kratz said, "Right, cameras out, turn them off." So because he was undercover.
Isn't that Kim Zielinski or Kim?
There's Skorlinski, but there was
Kim.
another one. Yeah, there was another one who was undercover. And Ken Kratz actually told the producers and the camera crew to turn off their cameras. So I can quickly check up who it was, but they made them turn off their cameras.
Cat Gamer Girl Harmon said that Bobby also had scratch marks on him. Yes, we forgot to mention that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
then
also
Carla Black.
Ryan had scratch marks as well, and he said it came from his puppy. Bobby Dassey had scratch marks, and he said that it came from his black Labrador.
People have also pointed out where it looks like Ryan has a bite mark on his jaw between his nose and his ear.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That narcotics agent was called Gary Steyer. He's from Calumet. Calumet. And when he was going to present, Ken Kratz told them to turn off the cameras.
Yeah, and then we watched the body language interpretation collectively, and yeah, he was definitely lying the whole time on his stand or telling half truth. Carla Black from chat said, if Bobby followed her, did he see the murder or did he see her get abducted? That's a good point.
That is a very good point. And you see, if that was the case, if he had actually seen Teresa Horbach attacked or ambushed, he's in a very bad compromising position, isn't he? So clearly he never said a word. But the mere factor that he followed her out, the investigators are going to put two and two together. It won't take long. And how would he be able to get out of that situation by saying, "Oh yeah, I followed her out," because he said that he actually turned right on 147 and went east, which is the opposite direction that Teresa Horbach went.
Well,
Right,
if we're
but
gonna start, yeah.
he never admitted that he saw Teresa Horbach after, when he said he went inside to go came out to go hunting. He said, "I saw her car, but I never saw Teresa Horbach again." Right, so he threw his uncle under the bus then and there.
Yeah. Well, who's
All
to
right,
say that
guys.
Michael wasn't waiting, somewhere over there to ambush her
Well,
together? These are just
well,
speculations. We don't know.
yeah. Well, let me just ask this: is it true, according to Stephen Avery, that Scott Tadich was actually at the salvage yard at 12 o'clock?
I think it was.
We don't know who
True.
that affidavit is from, but it's probably Stephen.
I believe it's from Stephen. So, do we actually know who was in the blazer who followed Teresa Horbach out? Was it Bobby? We don't know. Sammy, do you have a Jack 61? Sorry,
I was
Jack
going to say, yeah, we don't know.
I had this really strange and I don't know what it is, but was it not Brandon that mentioned that they were driving by in a green, I don't know what he called it, but it kind of, what you guys are talking about kind of brought that to my mind. So
Blaine.
was it Blaine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But also, wasn't something mentioned about the gas refiller? Didn't he see a green vehicle as well?
Yep, the propane truck driver.
The propane truck driver, correct. So again, you've got all these sightings of these green, dark green, greenish blue vehicles. It's rather bizarre. But what is obvious is that all the sightings are around the general area of the salvage yard, right? So that's interesting in itself. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
We're going back a bit about Bobby and Scott and these other statements that are really weird. We don't think a lot about it because I guess maybe it's just in my mind, maybe others think about it more than I do. But we have to remember Brendan was in that house for 5 months after Stephen was arrested. Well, basically 5 months after Stephen was arrested. So what was he exposed to? What did he hear? What was he told?
Yes, correct. Correct.
And how did we know Brendan was extremely slow and manipulative. He could be manipulated.
Yes.
What happened?
Well,
what
he
was,
was very impressionable.
Right. What was it?
Yeah.
Exactly. What was he exposed to during that time frame?
Correct. And that's why you get the pathetic excuse by Fassbender and Wiegert saying, we're going to put him up at Fox Hills. Why? Because we want to protect him from harm's way, from the family. And they only left him there for one night. So what happened to their duty of care? It obviously disappeared after one night. So I think what they were trying to do is to get a story straight from Brendan, right? And then after that, that's it. End the story. Yeah, it's not good at all. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Yeah, why did Brendan choose to stay in Crivets for so long? Why did Bobby Dassey not want to come home? I just got to make a statement.
Right. Yes.
Why your boys look like they already moved out?
Yep. Correct.
I have something in the chat here. I call her Black, and she says it does seem like Bobby was obsessed with Teresa. Stephen said Bobby mentioned her every time she visited and would say, "I saw your girlfriend was here."
Correct. But that's true. But that's why I said my belief is that he followed her for flirtation purposes, right? And she could have just brushed him off and said, bugger off. And, it could have just been non-nefarious. being flirtatious is one thing, but gonging somebody on the head with a hammer with the intent of kidnapping and killing them, that's another thing altogether. But then again, if you look at Bobby Dassey's computer, there were images of extreme violence, right? And that's exactly what happened to Teresa, or the victim, right? The victim suffered extreme violence.
Too
It's
much of
horrendous.
what was found on that computer is the basic narrative of what has happened to Teresa. So that really does bother me.
Correct.
And somebody,
Yeah, go for it, Neverly.
and somebody in the chat said that the findings on Bobby's computer with all that vile, sick stuff must have been real, because if it was like downloaded onto Bobby's computer, they could have
Yes.
easily downloaded it onto Stevens, and Stevens was clean.
Correct. Stevens was clean. That's correct.
Yeah.
And, but the other thing is, don't forget, guys, Stephen even told the investigators that he watched a bit of non-violent erotica material on his Foxtel box or whatever, his cable TV. So he didn't hesitate to tell him that. He could have hid it, but he told them that, right? And that's in complete contrast to the violent pornography found on the Dassey computer, right? And the mum, Barb, said, no, we never had internet. Clearly, that cannot be the case. And pornographic images were viewed that day Teresa was there, right? Because they can timestamp it. So, but it didn't stop after the murder. Images still got downloaded. Okay, so people were still using the computer to download violent pornography. It didn't stop after the murder, right? It still continued. I think it quietened down for a few days for anyone who knows the records, but then it picked up again, which was rather bizarre. Sammy, do you have a comment?
Well, based on the fact that we know that that computer had that stuff on it, and my mind goes to, in order to maybe connect dots, an individual who is partaking of that sort of material might get to the point where they want to contribute some material. So I am always wondering if this did not even go further, if this is any way connected to her directly and what happened to her. These people that do these things are
Correct.
obsessed, and it leads to another degree, a deeper degree of involvement in everything they do. It's unavoidable. I've studied all of this crap enough to know this is not just, there's nothing mild about it. That's all I can
No,
say. But it does
no.
go to the question for me, this person end up wanting to contribute something in some way, their deepest desire. I mean, they can't control their obsession.
No, but that you see, that brings up a very disturbing point, and that is whoever killed Teresa Halbach may have taken photographs and uploaded them to the dark web, just like you were saying, contributed to the stuff that they were viewing, right? And I remember that in Queso there were rumors that there were photographs circulating of Teresa Halbach restrained to her bed. It turned out to be false, but it's interesting how people's minds work, because that's precisely what happened in the film Kiss the Girls, in which the killer or the person doing all the abuse of these women were taking photographs and he was uploading them to the other guy, the other killer. So they were sharing their handiwork over the internet, which is rather remarkable because that's precisely what it appears to be here. People are uploading these vile images to the dark web, and these guys are downloading it and viewing it, right? And as you said, Sammy, the scary thing is, did the killer or killers take photographs and upload them to the dark web? We don't know. It's terrible.
No, we don't. This is
No, we
part
don't.
of a peek into my cynical mind.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, guys, I'm just being a bit wary of the time. Do we have any final comments that people like to talk about? Jack 61.
Talking about the dark web, I'm just thinking about the time frame, and I don't know, when Tor and all that kind of thing became available, but I do know back, late 90s up into the 2000s that many people used the use groups, or called Usenet,
Yes.
and a lot of illicit stuff got exchanged on the news groups. I saw it. I'm like, holy hell. So again, uploading it somewhere, even embedding it into another something called the program, or it's really not a program. It's a bunch of files. So I just wanted to throw that up there.
Yeah, correct. And back then the internet would have been basically uncensored, right? Until people kicked up and got things cleaned up. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that was on that computer was horrendous. And it's unbelievable that, not unbelievable when you think about it, that Fassbender secreted it, put it away, because he knew. Could you imagine if Brian Dassey got up on the stand and said, Bobby, what are you talking about? You said that you saw her leave. And then the defense goes, oh, can you explain what these 20,000 images are doing on your PC in your bedroom? That would have been it. That would have discredited him completely. You've got all these violent pornographic images, underage girls, mutilation. Well, have a look what happened to the victim, Teresa Horbach, in this case. She was left cremated in bone fragments. So the violence towards her or the victim was extreme. And that's precisely what they had on his computer. They talked about bones, knives, drowning, beheadings. I'm not quite sure whether that's the type of stuff that a 19-year-old should be viewing, in my opinion. Wizard, do you have any final comment?
Oh, blimey. Yeah, the cameras would have made a nice trophy. And for a trainee, for example, the opportunity that afternoon to kill Teresa, steal her cameras, use her cameras, and if that same person has killed since, probably still has those cameras, and is probably still using those cameras.
Could be. And no one knows where they are. Jack, thank you, Wizard. Jack 61.
Well, that goes into what Sammy was talking about, this escalation, or this person, whoever did this, it was extreme. You nailed it. That precisely
Yes.
because she was dismembered and burned up and left in bits. So this
Yes.
escalation of a person that's obsessed in doing that kind of thing, that is a good question. And it brings up a good point of what else happened in that region, what else happened in that area.
Correct.
We know
Correct.
that many young women disappeared
Yep.
and they don't know who did it.
Correct. And thank you, Jack 61. And I think the fact that Ken Kratz tried to present Teresa Horbach as a very clean, did no wrong, was a loving Christian, basically deflected her personal lifestyle, which exposed her to potentially a lot of harm. And as the Powder Puff team once went into the victimology, there was no victimology done, or maybe they did victimology and kept it quiet. And that's a huge issue, because had they done victimology, they could have easily brought in half a dozen potential Denny suspects. So someone's got to know something, right? Someone's got to know something. And I honestly believe that Stephen and Brendan, they weren't involved. And it's such a disgrace that Bobby Dassey, if he had said, look, I did see Teresa leave, right? The problem is that now that puts him involved, right? because if he sees Teresa leave, he'll be asked 1,000,001 questions. And he doesn't know if someone out there saw him, right? Following Teresa or whatever. So he had to keep it quiet, right? So I don't think we're at the truth. No way. All right, guys. Do we have any final comments? Because it is getting a little bit late now. Big Jeff.
Well, Kathleen Zellner had a recent tweet that said something along the lines of another date goes whooshing by.
Correct.
I believe that Kathleen Zellner is probably feeling very good right now about what her position is, and I'm very much looking forward to see if the state actually has the courage to submit a brief. I don't know how you can possibly respond to some of the violations that are in there, and I look forward to Stephen's new trial, at least evidentiary hearing, minimally.
Yes, that'd be awesome. They can't ignore it. Like Judge Angela, I can't even say her surname, Sukowicz. She basically ignored the filings, just completely threw it out. No judge wants to handle it. It's obvious, unfortunately. All right, guys. Well, if there are no other questions, Millbilly.
If you don't mind, if I take this time to just do a little plug for my channel tonight.
No, not at all.
I'll be joined with Dr. Silkman, Big Jeff, and somebody that reached out to me that you guys are well known in this community. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, awesome. Yes. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
No,
All good? BB.
Oh, sorry. No,
We're all good? Yep, awesome. Yes, Millbilly invited me to do a couple of lives recently where we talked about all sorts of things, including the Toyota RAV4, of course, which was a really interesting discussion. Yeah, please check out that on Millbilly's channel. Yeah, awesome. Neverly, do you have a final comment?
Actually, I'm going to do a comment from the chat. Tracy Bowman said, if you believe Dave Bigotka, he said that law enforcement watched while Gregory Allen raped Penny Bernstein. What's to say they didn't do the same with Teresa? Good point. So that's going to be my final question, my final comment.
Yeah, well, there's all. I'm
Do
lost
something
for
to tickle
I'm
your
lost
mind.
for words. Yes.
Can I interject on that so that people understand during that period of time when that happened to her, there was a
Yes.
program out where they were surveilling criminals, and they did not. It was made very clear when I found this out that they were not required to intervene.
Oh, I just observe.
This was part of their surveillance. That's
Right.
just an assumption on our part on the
course.
possibility that that was the deal, because we see a lot of indications that it was.
Yep. Oh my Lord. Yes. True. Millbilly, do you have a final comment?
Oh, no, I just have my mic on, sorry.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Well, I think we've gone for nearly 2.5 hours.
Oh, so does that mean that Zoe can end it now?
Wait. Let me.
Not yet, Zoe. Not yet.
Before.
Shut up, TV.
Don't touch.
I like to thank our esteemed panel for joining me tonight, for asking a lot of excellent questions, and also to our listeners who've asked an amazing array of questions, some of which I don't know the answers, and it's fantastic that new people, thank God no one's addicted to these cases, of course, come and ask some very intriguing questions. Guys, if you like what we've done, please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already. At Foul Play, we do a very much a team approach to tackling these two cases. And just to let you know that soon we'll be finished with the MAM 2, looking at the forensic evidence against Stephen Avery. and then both Neverly and myself will go back and look at Brendan Dassey. Right? I promise we'll do it. We'll do it properly. We'll give it justice, and we'll get everyone angry again. But I'd like to thank the audience. I'd like to thank all of you guys for supporting us. And Bibi, come and join in the Discord channel. Is that correct? For discussions?
Oh yes, yep. Drop in after this. I'm sure there'll be plenty of us over there talking.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
This has been a Foul Play production.